Hello everyone, I'm Xiaoyu. Today's story is called No Distinction of Status. Just from the title, something big is about to go down. What does no distinction of status mean? It means on the wedding day, the groom brings his pregnant cousin to the door and demands that his lawful wife address her as sisters. Making no distinction between primary and secondary, what do we call this kind of move in modern times? We call it forced acceptance. Alright, enough talk, let's start feasting on this drama of the century. In late spring, the most lively event in the capital city was none other than the grand wedding between Shen Qinghe, the legitimate daughter of the Duke Zhengguo's manor, and Xiaoyan, the newly appointed champion marquise. Red silk was laid all the way from the gates of Duke Zhengguo's manor to the champion marquise manor, stretching for miles. Gold and red lanterns hung from the eaves on both sides of the streets and alleys. The sounds of suona horns, gongs, and drums, and firecrackers intertwined together, shaking people's eardrums until they trembled. Even the air was filled with a festive scent of rouge and wine. I sat upright in the bridal chamber of the champion marquis manor, dressed in a bright red phoenix coronet and red robe embroidered with the 100 sons and 1,000 grandsons pattern. The heavy phoenix coronet pressed down on my neck, making it slightly sore. The eastern pearls atop my head swayed gently with my breathing, and the cold pearl ornaments pressed against my cheeks. Yet they made the indescribable chill in my heart even clearer. The bridal chamber was decorated with extreme luxury, large red double happiness. Characters were pasted on the walls. The mandarin duck brocade bedding was laid out neat and flat, and the table held auspicious longan, red dates, and peanuts, but all this festive joy in the room couldn't warm my heart one bit. My personal maid Yunji was carefully arranging my skirt, her fingertips gentle, her tone full of excitement and admiration. "Miss, look at you today. You're absolutely gorgeous. This phoenix coronet and red robe on you, you look just like a fairy stepped out of a painting. The champion marquis is so talented and handsome, and he just achieved great merit. From now on, you'll be the Marquis Manor's lady. What a match made in heaven." I lowered my eyes, my gaze falling on my sleeve embroidered with intertwining lotus patterns. My fingertips unconsciously clenched tight, the brocade's texture pressing painfully into them. Yet it couldn't compare to even half the bitterness in my heart. A match made in heaven, 10 years of knowing each other. Childhood sweethearts, he once held my hand beneath the peach blossom tree. His eyes sincere, his tone resolute as he said, "Qinghe, once I pacify the northern frontier and achieve glory, I will marry you with a 10-lie bridal procession. This life, one lifetime with one person, I will never betray you." Back then, Xiaoyan was still a spirited young man, not yet ennobled, but filled with passion and ambition. I believed him, and the Shen family believed him too, to help him pacify the chaos in the northern frontier. Father exhausted the savings of the Duke Zhengguo's estate, sold off quite a bit of ancestral property, and even my mother's dowry I quietly took it out as well, scraping together 500,000 taels of silver. These 500,000 taels weren't an ordinary dowry. They were military funds I specifically prepared for him, meant to appease those soldiers under his command who risked their lives, and to strengthen his military authority. I still remember, before he departed, he held me tightly, his voice choked with emotion. "Qinghe, I've wronged you. When I return, I'll give you a stable home. These 500,000 taels, I will use them properly. Once the northern frontier is pacified, I will repay you double and protect you from worry for the rest of your life." Those vows still echo clearly in my ears as if it were just yesterday. I've kept this promise, waiting day after day, watching him rise from a nobody, step by step earning brilliant military achievements, being named champion marquis by His Majesty, watching his name spread throughout the capital city, becoming the ideal man in the hearts of countless noble young ladies. I thought my waiting would finally bring a joyful ending. I thought he would fulfill all his promises and give me a lifetime of stability with just the two of us. "Miss, the auspicious hour is almost here. Why hasn't the marquise arrived yet?" Yunji's voice carried a hint of confusion, interrupting my thoughts. "The guests outside have all arrived, and the wedding hall has urged us several times already." I looked up toward the window through the carved lattice. I could see the servants bustling about outside and hear the guests chatting and laughing merrily, but I couldn't hear those familiar footsteps that belonged to Xiaoyan. The auspicious hour had passed. According to custom, the wedding ceremony should have started long ago, yet he still hadn't appeared. The unease in my heart grew wildly, like vines, wrapping around my heart bit by bit, making it almost impossible to breathe. In my previous life, it was the same on our wedding day. He was late, and finally appeared before me with Luruya, dealing me a fatal blow. In this life, I thought I had mentally prepared myself, but when this moment truly arrived, the bitterness and hatred in my heart still couldn't help but surge up. Wait a bit longer. I suppressed the emotions deep in my heart, my voice so calm it didn't have a ripple, but only I knew that my fingertips had long been clenched white, my nails nearly embedded into my palm. Yunshi nodded and said no more, just quietly stood by my side, her eyes full of worry. The bridal chamber fell silent again, leaving only the occasional sounds of commotion from outside the window, making the coldness inside the room even more apparent. My mind constantly replaying the past between Xiaoyan and me in childhood at the school. He chased away the bullies who picked on me in our youth. He kept me company reading and practicing calligraphy under the peach blossom tree. Before he went off to war, our reluctant farewell at the city gate. All that former warmth had now turned into sharp knives, stabbing fiercely into my heart. I don't know how much time passed when the door to the bridal chamber was suddenly pushed open, breaking the silence inside. Footsteps approached from far to near, carrying some urgency and a trace of barely perceptible panic. I slowly opened my eyes and looked up only to see Xiaoyan dressed in a bright red wedding robe. His posture still upright, his features still handsome, but by his side he was arm in arm with a woman wearing a plain-colored dress. It was none other than my cousin, Lirue. Lirue's face was pale, her figure slender. Her plain clothes clashed harshly with the bright red filling the room. She kept her head slightly lowered, her brows and eyes full of fragility. One hand gently covered her lower abdomen, her shoulders trembling slightly. As if she had suffered some tremendous grievance, she leaned pitifully against Xiaoyan, inspiring an irresistible surge of tender affection. Stop, I need to pause here. On the wedding day, the groom personally escorts a woman who is clutching her belly and looking pitiful into the bride's wedding chamber. This plot is so intense it has fried my CPU, and did you all notice Luruya is wearing plain-colored clothes on the wedding day when the whole room is decked out in bright red? She is the only one in plain colors. What is she trying to hint at? Is she playing innocent? This green tea bitch's level is so high it is not even a question of skill anymore. It is a question of enlightenment. Xiaoyan, you were clearly supposed to be here for the wedding ceremony, but instead you brought a whole Shura field. The maids and servants in the wedding chamber were instantly stunned. They all lowered their heads, not daring to breathe loudly. Even their breathing became cautious. Yunshi was trembling with rage and stepped forward, about to rebuke them, but I grabbed her and held her back. I signaled her not to act impulsively. My gaze calmly fell on Xiaoyan and Lirue, no anger, no questioning, only an icy deathly silence. Xiaoyan seemed somewhat uncomfortable with my composure. He frowned slightly, avoiding my gaze, then adopted an unquestionable tone. His voice loud and clear, echoing throughout the entire bridal chamber, as if announcing something perfectly justified. Pingqi, my cousin, is already carrying my flesh and blood. She must enter our household today. From now on, you two will be equals, addressing each other as sisters, as the legitimate wife. You should have the magnanimity to accommodate others and not make things difficult for her. His tone held not a shred of guilt, not a hint of apology, only a kind of matter-of-fact certainty, as if he weren't bringing home a pregnant cousin on our wedding day right in front of me, but rather discussing some trivial matter with me. Just then, Marchiones, that is, Xiaoyan's mother, walked in from outside. Normally, she was always warm and kind to me, calling me Pingqi at every turn, treating me like her own daughter. She would often hold my hand and say she would treat me well in the future, ensuring I wouldn't suffer the slightest grievance at Marquis Manor. But at this moment, the warmth on her face had vanished without a trace, replaced by coldness and a sense of entitlement. She walked to Xiaoyan's side, looking at me coldly, her tone carrying a hint of pressure. Pingqi, I watched you grow up. You're well-educated and reasonable, so you should know to prioritize the bigger picture. Our Marquis Manor cannot let imperial bloodline remain outside. Ruya is carrying Jingyuan's child, so her entering our household is inevitable. Stop being willful. Royal bloodline, I almost laughed out loud. Xiaoyan just got his marquis title. He is nothing but a newly appointed lord. His kid, Does it even deserve to be called royal bloodline? It is just a high-sounding excuse they came up with to let Luruya enter the family with legitimacy. I looked at the mother and son in front of me, looked at their confident expressions, my mind crystal clear. They were certain that the wedding ceremony had already begun. Guests from all over the capital city were waiting outside, and for the sake of the Duke Zhengguo's manor's reputation, for the sake of the Shen family's name, I could only hold my nose and swallow this humiliation. They were certain that I loved Xiaoyan deeply, couldn't bear to give up this marriage. Couldn't bear to give up our 10 years of bond. They were even more certain that the Shen family had already spent everything to support Xiaoyan, couldn't do without his protection, and could only compromise and back down. But they were wrong, dead wrong. In my past life, I was swept along by their certainty, just like this. For the Shen family's reputation, for those 10 years of love, I chose to compromise and accepted Luruya entering the household. But what was the result after Luruya entered? She appeared gentle and kind on the surface, but secretly sowed discord between Xiaoyan and me at every turn, framed me, slandered me, step by step seizing my position. As the legitimate wife, taking everything from me, and Xiaoyan, blinded by Luruya's tender charms, gradually neglected me. Even when my Shen family fell into crisis, not only did he refuse to help, he kicked us while we were down, ultimately leading to my entire Shen family being executed. And I myself died miserably in a cold courtyard. In this life, I've returned carrying memories of my past life, carrying a heart full of hatred. How could I possibly repeat the same mistakes? How could I let them manipulate me again? In my ears, Xiaoyan kept on persuading, his tone carrying some impatience. Pingqi, stop making a fuss. The guests are all waiting outside. The wedding ceremony can't be delayed any longer. Don't worry, I'll treat you well. You'll still manage the household affairs of Marquis Manor. Ruya is just a delicate woman who is carrying my child. I can't fail her. Marchioness also chimed in from the side. That is right, Pingqi. Jingyuan had no choice. Stop being willful. Otherwise, if word gets out, it'll be bad for both our family's reputations, and your father will lose face too. I listened to their grating words, the coldness in my heart gradually fading away, replaced by an almost cruel calmness. 10 years of love, ultimately misplaced. 10 years of waiting, ultimately just a joke. I slowly raised my hand, my fingertips touching the phoenix crown on my head. The movement gentle yet carrying an unquestionable resolve. Yunsi hurriedly stepped forward, wanting to help, but I gestured for her to step aside. I personally raised my hand, little by little lifting the red veil from my head. The bright red silk slid down from my cheeks, revealing a delicate yet cold face. Sunlight from outside the window filtered through the lattice, falling on my face, yet carrying not a trace of warmth. The corners of my mouth slowly curved into a cold smile in that smile. There was no love, no reluctance, only endless mockery and resolve. The Marquis jests, my voice wasn't loud. Yet it was exceptionally clear, piercing through the silence of the room, spreading throughout the entire bridal chamber, even reaching outside the door, letting those servants and guests poking their heads around hear every word clearly. You want your sweetheart to enter the household. Fine, but the 500,000 taels of silver that Marquis Manor is waiting for me to provide to save lives. Don't expect a single one of it. As soon as I said this, the bridal chamber instantly fell into dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. The impatience on Xiaoyan's face froze immediately, then turned ashen. His eyes filled with disbelief. He suddenly stepped forward, staring at me intently, as if seeing me for the first time. Shen Pingqi, what did you say? Say that again. The Marchioness's expression also changed dramatically in an instant, shifting from coldness to panic. She stepped forward, her tone urgent. Pingqi, what nonsense are you making? That 500,000 taels of silver is meant to appease the soldiers and consolidate military power. How can you just refuse to give it? Do you realize this will ruin Jingyuan? Looking at their panicked appearances, I felt not a shred of pity in my heart. Instead, a sense of vengeful pleasure surged up. Ruin him. In my previous life, he ruined everything I had, destroyed the entire Shen family. In this life, I'm merely taking back what belongs to me, merely teaching him a small lesson. Ruin him? I let out a cold laugh, my gaze like a blade, piercing straight toward Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan, when you knelt before me back then, begging the Shen family for help, begging me to produce 500,000 taels of silver. Why didn't you think there would be today? When you promised me, one life, one world, one pair, promised to protect me from all worries for a lifetime. Why didn't you think you'd bring a pregnant cousin to force me on our wedding day? I stepped forward, leaned close to him, lowered my voice, but it carried a bone-chilling coldness. Do you think I, Shen Qinghe, am still that fool you kept in the dark and manipulated at will? Do you think the Shen family can't survive without you? You're wrong, dead wrong. These 500,000 taels of silver are the Shen family's lifeblood, my mother's dowry. If I want to give it, I'll give it. If I don't, no one can take it away. Xiaoyan's face turned from pale to flushed, his eyes filled with rage and panic. He opened his mouth, wanting to scold me, wanting to threaten me, but the words reached his lips and he swallowed them back. He knew I was telling the truth. Those 500,000 taels of silver were crucial to him. Without them, the morale of his soldiers would collapse. His military authority would be difficult to consolidate. He might even be held accountable by the emperor, and the title of champion marquis he'd obtained could go up in smoke. The Marchioness also panicked, her tone instantly softening. Her face took on its usual gentle expression as she grabbed my hand, her voice tender. Qinghe, Mother knows she was wrong. Mother shouldn't have pressured you. And Jingyuan shouldn't have been willful either. Don't be angry. Let's talk this through properly. Ruyue can wait before joining the household. We'll discuss it further after some time. Alright? Just give the silver to Jingyuan first. Don't let it delay important matters. I forcefully shook off her hand, my eyes cold. Without the slightest hint of being moved. Marchioness, no need. Regarding today's matter, either you send Lu Ruyue away and properly complete the wedding ceremony with me, from now on one life, one world, one partner, then I'll naturally give you that 500,000 taels of silver, or you let her enter the household. Then that 500,000 taels of silver, not a penny, and this marriage ends here. Xiaoyan looked at my determined eyes, knowing I wasn't joking. He fell into a dilemma. On one side was Lu Ruyue, whom he had been longing for, along with the child in her belly. On the other side was 500,000 taels of silver, his military power, his future. He frowned, his expression terrifyingly gloomy, silent for a long while, but ultimately still leaned towards Lu Ruyue. Shen Qinghe, don't force me. Xiaoyan's voice carried a hint of viciousness. That 500,000 taels of silver, you must give it to me. Ruyue must also enter the household. If you dare not give it, I dare to make a scene at the Duke Zhengguo's manor. Let everyone in the entire capital city know that you Shen Qinghe backed out of the marriage on your wedding day, lacking propriety, bringing shame upon your Shen family. Bringing shame. I looked at his flustered and exasperated appearance, the smile on my lips growing even colder. My Shen Qinghe's dignity has never been maintained by a marriage of betrayal. Since he insists on forcing me, then I'll grant his wish. Let everyone in the entire capital city see exactly who lacks propriety, who is the one breaking faith and abandoning righteousness. Xiaoyan's words were like a fire, instantly igniting the tense atmosphere in the room. The maids and servants in the bridal chamber were so frightened they trembled, not even daring to breathe loudly. Yunxi was even more furious, her whole body shaking as she pointed at Xiaoyan. Her voice choked with emotion. Xiaoyan, you've gone too far. My young lady kindly helped you, exhausting the Shen family's entire wealth to help you achieve success and fame. Yet, on your wedding day, you betray her and even threaten her. You're absolutely shameless. Insolence, Xiaoyan shouted sternly, his eyes looking at Yunxi with a sinister gaze. You have no place to speak here. A mere maid dares to point fingers at this marquis. You're asking for death. As he spoke, Xiaoyan raised his hand, wanting to strike Yunxi. My eyes turned cold, and I suddenly stepped forward, blocking in front of Yunxi. I grabbed Xiaoyan's wrist with such force that even Xiaoyan couldn't help but furrow his brow, his expression becoming increasingly ugly. Xiaoyan, I dare you to touch her. My voice was icy cold to the bone, the chill in my eyes making even Xiaoyan shudder involuntarily. Yunxi is part of my Shen family. It is not your place to discipline her, you traitorous wretch. Today's matter is a grudge between you and me. It has nothing to do with a maid. If you dare to touch her again, I will definitely make you pay the price. Xiaoyan was caught by me so hard that his wrist hurt, and was intimidated by my aura. For a moment he couldn't move at all. Looking at my icy gaze, a trace of panic rose in his heart for the first time. He discovered that the Shen Qinghe before his eyes seemed completely different from the gentle and kind woman who obeyed his every word that he knew. The aura around her was sharp and resolute, carrying the pride and confidence of the legitimate daughter of the Duke Zhengguo's mansion. She was no longer that little woman who could be manipulated by him at will. Seeing this, the Marchioness hurriedly stepped forward, grabbed Xiaoyan's other hand, and persuaded Jingyuan, "Don't be impulsive, talk it out nicely, don't hurt the harmony. Qinghe is just angry for the moment, be more accommodating towards her." Xiaoyan violently shook off my hand. A clear red mark was left on his wrist. He glared at me viciously, his face ashen, his tone full of threats. "Shen Qinghe, you dare threaten me? Let me tell you this 500,000 taels of silver. You have to give it today whether you want to or not. Ruyu must enter the household, and this marriage must continue. If you dare to resist, I'll make the Shen family pay the price." A price. I let out a cold laugh, the mockery in my eyes nearly overflowing. "Xiaoyan, why don't you piss and take a good look at yourself? What right do you have to make my Shen family pay a price? If my Shen family hadn't exhausted all our wealth to help you, would you have your position as champion marquise today? If my Shen family hadn't maneuvered for you at court, do you think you could have successfully pacified the northern border and earned His Majesty's favor?" I paused, my voice growing even sharper, each word clear and forceful. "Everything you have today was given to you by my Shen family. Not only are you ungrateful, you repay kindness with enmity, betraying me on our wedding day, forcing me to accept a co-wife, and now you dare threaten me. Xiaoyan, you truly don't know what is good for you." With that, I raised my hand and pulled out the marriage certificate and dowry list I'd prepared long ago from my sleeve. The marriage certificate was sewn from bright red brocade, inscribed with mine and Xiaoyan's names, stamped with the great seals of the Duke Protector's manor and the Champion Marquis manor, a testament to our 10 years of affection and proof of what I once looked forward to with all my heart. As for the dowry list, it was densely written with all my dowry items from gold, silver, pearls, and jade, silks and satins, to estates and shops, and those 500,000 taels of silver. Every single item represented my Shen family's blood and sweat. When Xiaoyan and the Marchioness saw the marriage certificate and list in my hands, their faces instantly turned even uglier. The Marchioness hurried forward, trying to snatch them. "Qinghe, what are you trying to do? You can't touch the marriage certificate, and you can't touch the list either." I dodged her hand by turning sideways, my eyes ice cold, without the slightest hesitation. I grabbed the marriage certificate with both hands and gave it a light tear with a RIP sound. The bright red marriage certificate was torn in half by me. Then I continued tearing bit by bit, shredding the marriage certificate into pieces. After that, I picked up the dowry gift list and, in the same manner, tore it into shreds bit by bit. RIP, RIP, the sound of tearing brocade was exceptionally piercing in the silent bridal chamber. Each sound was like a hammer, smashing hard onto the hearts of Xiaoyan and the Marchioness. Watching the fragments in my hands, their faces turned deathly pale, their eyes full of disbelief and panic. Xiaoyan roared sternly, "Shen Qinghe, have you lost your mind? How dare you tear up the marriage certificate and gift list? Do you know what you're doing?" I gently scattered the paper scraps in my hand into the air, the red paper fragments. Like snow flurries dancing all over the sky, fell to the ground, landing on the bright red double happiness characters filling the room, forming a stark contrast, exceptionally glaring. I raised my eyes, my gaze sharp as a blade, looking straight at Xiaoyan, my voice calm yet carrying unquestionable resolution. "A threat? No, I'm just informing you. I, Shen Qinghe, am not unable to get married today. I simply disdain marrying a treacherous, ungrateful wretch like you. This marriage is hereby cancelled. From this day forward, between you and me, all grace and ties are severed. No further entanglements." Awesome, awesome, awesome. The way Sis tore up that marriage contract got my blood pumping, and did you guys notice that detail? She pulled the marriage contract out from her sleeve. That means she had it ready before leaving the house. What do you call that? That is called coming prepared, having a clear target. Look at Xiaoyan, on the other hand, bringing another woman to force the marriage on the wedding day itself, with no backup plan at all, thinking the legitimate wife would just obediently comply. Sis has been reborn ages ago. She came with the whole script. Xiaoyan, as an opponent, you're not just one level below her. US melon-eating spectators can tell this match has no suspense at all. Yu Xiaoyan was so furious his whole body trembled, pointing at me but unable to get out a complete sentence. He never imagined that I would actually dare to tear up the marriage contract, actually dare to give up this marriage arrangement, actually dare to completely break with him. He originally thought I would compromise, would back down, but he never expected that I would be so resolute, leaving not even a shred of room for negotiation. The Marchioness was even more furious and flustered. She looked at the paper scraps on the ground, then at my cold face, and could no longer hold back. She suddenly lunged at me, trying to claw at me, screaming from her mouth, "Shen Qinghe, you dare ruin Jingyuan's marriage, dare tear up the marriage contract. I'll kill you." But just as she lunged at me, she was blocked by the personal guards I brought with me. Two tall, burly guards in tight-fitting uniforms pinned down the Marchioness from both sides, rendering her immobile. The Marchioness struggled and shrieked, her face twisted and vicious, no longer showing any trace of her usual gentle kindness. She looked like a crazy woman. I had long anticipated they would lash out desperately and try to attack me. Before coming to the Marquis's manor, I deliberately arranged for elite guards from the Shen family to disguise themselves as dowry servants and stay by my side, precisely to prevent this kind of situation from happening today. A daughter of the Shen family absolutely cannot be bullied by them at a time like this. Marchioness, please mind your status. I looked at her coldly, my tone full of mockery. As the Marchioness, your every word and action represents the dignity of the Champion Marquis manor. Now, throwing such a tantrum and acting like a crazy woman, aren't you afraid the guests outside will see and bring shame upon the Champion Marquis's manor? The Marchioness was left speechless by my retort, and her struggling gradually ceased. She looked at me, her eyes filled with hatred yet helpless at the same time. She knew that the guards I brought were elite members of the Shen family, and she was no match for them. No matter how much she struggled, it would be futile. I no longer looked at her, turned around, and walked step by step toward the bridal chamber door. Each step was taken firmly and calmly, without the slightest reluctance. When I reached the doorway, I stopped, slowly turned around, my gaze sweeping over Xiaoyan the Marchioness and that Liu Ruya who had been hiding behind Xiaoyan feigning weakness. I raised my voice several notches to ensure all the guests outside could hear clearly. Champion Marquis Xiaoyan, in order to fornicate with his cousin Liu Ruya, got her pregnant out of wedlock, and on his wedding day actually forced me, his legitimate wife, to accept a co-wife, treating marriage as a joke and treating my Shen family as nothing. Such illicit coupling without a matchmaker, such betrayal and breach of faith, such ingratitude, he is unworthy of being a court official, unworthy of His Majesty's favor, unworthy of being a 7-foot man. My voice rang out powerfully, spreading throughout the entire Marquis manor. I, Shen Qinghe, swear here today that I will never marry such a shameless wretch. From this day forward, my Shen family and the Champion Marquis manor are irreconcilable enemies. These words, resounding and forceful, instantly set off an explosion among the guests outside. The originally noisy Marquis manor instantly became filled with discussion, guests whispering to each other, their eyes full of astonishment, contempt, and mockery. The gazes directed at Xiaoyan's family became especially piercing. Oh my god, I never thought the Champion Marquis would be this kind of person. Bringing a pregnant cousin on his wedding day and trying to force his legal wife to accept her as an equal wife, how shameless. Exactly, Miss Shen is the legitimate daughter of the Duke Protector's manor, talented and beautiful, and she has given him so much help. Yet, he betrays Miss Shen like this, truly ungrateful. Looks like the Champion Marquis's title wasn't earned through his own real abilities. Without the Shen family's help, how could he have achieved what he has today? He is really kicking down the ladder after climbing up. The voices of discussion surged toward Xiaoyan and his family like a tide. Xiaoyan's face turned from blue to white, then from red to purple. He wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. He wanted to defend himself, to argue back. But facing everyone's contemptuous gazes and my words that pierced straight to the heart, he couldn't say a single word. He could only clench his fists tightly, his eyes full of anger and unwillingness. Liu Ruya was so scared her whole body trembled. She clung tightly to Xiaoyan, her face pale as paper, not daring to raise her head to meet anyone's gaze, afraid of being drowned by everyone's spittle. She had originally thought that as long as she could enter the manor with Xiaoyan, She could rise to the heavens in one step and become the lady of the Marquis Manor, but she never imagined things would escalate to this point. Not only did she fail to enter, but she also ruined her own reputation. I looked at their wretched appearances, feeling not a shred of pity in my heart, only endless satisfaction. This is what they get for betraying me and scheming against me. Miss, let's go. Yunxi supported my arm, her tone resolute. I nodded, no longer sparing Xiaoyan's family a single glance. I turned around and walked out of the bridal chamber with my head held high and chest out. My guards followed behind me, orderly and imposing. The guests outside saw me emerge and made way one after another, their eyes full of admiration and sympathy. They pointed and whispered about me, but the mockery from before was completely gone. I led my people in a grand procession toward the main gate of Marquis Manor. The dowry procession that had accompanied me here was still neatly arranged at the manor entrance, those gold, silver, jewels, silks, and satins, all untouched. And even more valuable than when we arrived, I had deliberately instructed my guards to bring back the betrothal gifts that Xiaoyan had previously sent over as well. Seeing that I was leaving and looking at the dowry, Xiaoyan finally panicked. He hurriedly chased after me and grabbed my wrist. His tone urgent. Pingqi, I was wrong, I was really wrong. Don't leave. Let's start over. I won't let Ruyu enter the household anymore. I only want you, as long as you give me the money. I'll listen to everything you say, okay? I shook off his hand forcefully, my eyes cold, my tone without the slightest hint of emotion. Xiaoyan, it is too late. Since you chose to betray me, chose Lu Rua, then don't look back, my sincerity. Shen Qinghe is sincerity you don't deserve to have. My Shen family's assistance you don't deserve to receive either. From now on, you go your way, I'll go mine. We have nothing more to do with each other. After speaking, I boarded the carriage, and Yunxi and the guards followed suit. The carriage slowly started moving, sweeping up the red silk on the ground, also sweeping up my 10 years of love and obsession. I lifted the carriage curtain, watching the gates of the Champion Marquis Manor grow more and more distant, watching Xiaoyan's panicked and flustered figure, watching Lu Ruyu's pale and fearful face, the corners of my mouth curling into a cold smile. Xiaoyan, this is just the beginning. You think what you've lost is merely 500,000 taels of silver, merely a marriage arrangement. No, what you've lost is my Shen family's protection, is my sincerity as Shen Qinghe, is your hard-won future. What you owe me, what you owe my Shen family. I will take back bit by bit every last piece and make you and Lu Ruyu. Along with your whole family, pay a painful price. The carriage raced along the entire way, and soon returned to the Duke Zhengguo's manor. Just arriving at the main gate, I saw Father standing at the entrance, waiting anxiously with a worried expression. Father was dressed in his court attire, his hair slightly graying, his face full of concern. Seeing me return, he immediately came forward, the worry in his eyes instantly turning to heartache. Qinghe, my dear child, you're finally back. Father pulled me into his arms, his voice choked with emotion, his tone full of heartache. You've suffered so much, you've suffered so much. I know everything now. I don't blame you. It is good that you're back, it is good that you're back. Being held in Father's arms, feeling his warm embrace, listening to his heartfelt words, the emotions I had suppressed for so long finally burst out uncontrollably. Tears fell like broken beads streaming down endlessly. All my strength, all my resolve in that moment turned into fragility. Father, I was wrong. I shouldn't have trusted Xiaoyan so much back then. Shouldn't have ignored your advice. Shouldn't have exhausted the Shen family's resources to help him. I choked out, my voice breaking. Father gently patted my back, comforting me tenderly, silly child. This isn't your fault, it is Xiaoyan, that ungrateful wretch. He is the one who wronged you, who wronged our Shen family. The fact that you came to your senses in time and got out unscathed is already good enough. He released me, gently wiping away the tears on my face, his gaze firm and his tone strong. The daughter of the Shen family will never suffer such wrongs. That ungrateful wolf Xiaoyan dared to betray you, dared to scheme against our Shen family. I will never let him off, rest assured. With me here, with the Shen family here, no one can bully you. Looking at Father's determined eyes and feeling his protection, the grievance in my heart gradually faded away, replaced by a resolute strength. That is right, I still have Father, I still have the Shen family. I'm not fighting alone, Xiaoyan. You just wait, my revenge plan has already taken shape. In this life, I will make sure you're ruined and die a miserable death. Yunsi supported me as we followed father into the mansion. The servants in the mansion saw me return and came forward one after another, bowing respectfully with eyes full of sympathy. Not a single one dared to ask questions. I knew they had all heard about today's events and were feeling indignant on my behalf. Back at my own courtyard, father sat in the main hall. Looking at me with a gentle tone, Pingqi, rest well. Father will handle today's matter properly and won't let you suffer even the slightest grievance. As for Xiaoyan, father will personally go settle accounts with him and make him pay the price he deserves for what he did today. I shook my head, my eyes determined. Father, you don't need to act. I want to handle this matter myself. Xiaoyan betrayed me, schemed against me. I want to take revenge personally and watch him step by step walk toward his own destruction. Father looked at my determined eyes and didn't object. He just nodded, his tone full of gratification. Good, well done. Truly worthy of being Shenxi's daughter, you've got spirit. But remember, no matter what happens, you must tell father. Father will always be your most solid backing. I know, thank you, father. I nodded, warmth filling my heart after father left. Yunxi brought me a cup of hot tea, her tone worried. Miss, are you really going to take revenge yourself? Xiaoyan is now the champion marquis, with power and influence. You're just a woman, won't it be too dangerous? I picked up the hot tea and took a light sip. The warmth spread from my throat to the bottom of my heart, and my gaze became even more resolute. So what if it is dangerous? In my previous life, it was precisely because I was too weak and trusted him too much that I ended up with my family destroyed and everyone dead. In this life, I will never be weak again, never let myself be manipulated by others again. So what if Xiaoyan has power and influence? The Shen family is not to be bullied either. Moreover, he has already been thoroughly disgraced today. Having lost the Shen family's protection, his good days are over. I put down the teacup and gazed out the window, a trace of ruthlessness flashing in my eyes. Xiaoyan, do you think this is the end? No, this is only the beginning, what you owe me. What you owe the Shen family, I will make you pay back 100, 1,000 times over. I'll make you and Liruya, along with your entire family, taste the suffering I endured in my previous life. I'll make you all disgraced and ensure you die horrible deaths. Xiaoyan's actions were even faster than I anticipated. In just 3 days, rumors and gossip about me began spreading through every street and alley of the capital city. Those words were fabricated so convincingly, saying that I, Shen Qinghe, as the former champion Marquise's wife, was narrow-minded and couldn't stand other women around Xiaoyan, much less tolerate the child in Liruya's womb. They claimed I secretly used all sorts of vicious methods to force Liruya into a corner, and if Xiaoyan hadn't risked his life to protect her, that pitiful woman would have already met her demise. Even more absurdly, they portrayed Xiaoyan as a righteous and honorable gentleman caught in a dilemma, saying he remembered our past affection and didn't want to completely tear things apart with me, yet felt heartbroken over Liruya's situation and could only struggle painfully between the two of us, looking both wronged and helpless. The rumors spread like they had wings, quickly reaching every corner of the capital city, in tea houses and taverns, rouge and powder shops. Even in the courtyards of common folk, people could be heard discussing my jealousy. The servants of the Shen residence, upon hearing this, were each filled with righteous indignation, wishing they could go out and argue with people. But I stopped them all. My personal maid Wanxing was so angry her eyes reddened, and when she came in carrying tea, her voice carried fury. Miss, those people have gone too far. They don't know the truth of the matter at all, yet they're slandering you so recklessly. Should this servant go spread some dirt about Xiaoyan and Liruya and win back your reputation? I set down the book in my hands, my fingertips gently caressing the texture on the pages. There wasn't a trace of anger on my face. Instead, I wore a faint smile. No need. Rumors stop with the wise. Besides, compared to such illusory reputation, I'd much rather make Xiaoyan pay a real price. In my view, those rumors were nothing more than Xiaoyan's desperate struggle as a cornered beast. He wanted to use public opinion to blackmail me, force me to help him fill the hole left by his embezzlement of military funds. But he underestimated me in the end, and underestimated the Shen family's strength as well. Ever since the moment I was stripped of my position as Marchioness and driven out of Marquis Manor by Xiaoyan, I was no longer that submissive Shen Qinghe who clung to old sentiments. I am the legitimate daughter of the Shen family, the one in control of the Shen family's trade routes and connections. What I want has never been an apology, but thorough and complete revenge. The first thing I did was immediately summon the managers of the Shen family's merchant houses from all over, conveying my orders through secret letters. The Shen family had been in commerce for generations, and after 100 years of accumulation, their trade routes had long spread across the entire country, from the imperial relatives and nobles in the capital city above, down to the ordinary merchants in remote prefectures and counties below. All had countless connections with the Shen family. More importantly, the Shen family held control over many secret channels that could quietly move massive amounts of silver without leaving any trace. And that 500,000 taels of silver was originally part of my dowry from the Shen family when I married into the Champion Marquis manor. Now I would make this money become the first straw to crush Xiaoyan. I personally picked up the brush and wrote a letter in my own hand, addressed to General Lu Yuan, the Northern Pacification General at the northern border front line. Lu Yuan was an old subordinate of my father's. Back when my father was alive, he had shown great kindness and recognition to him. This man was upright and honest, principled and incorruptible, strict in military discipline, and had always despised Xiaoyan's greedy, cunning, and corrupt practices. Over these years, relying on the emperor's momentary favor, Xiaoyan had constantly suppressed Lu Yuan within the military. The two had long been at odds, with deep-seated grievances accumulated over time. In my letter, I made clear that this donation of 500,000 taels of silver was not for personal gain, but because I deeply understood the hardships faced by the soldiers at the northern border, frontline the shortages of provisions and military supplies, and wished to contribute what little I could to help him stabilize the troops' morale and resist foreign enemies. At the same time, I also subtly mentioned Xiaoyan's embezzlement of military funds, hinting that he could take this opportunity to demonstrate his loyalty to the court and let the emperor see Xiaoyan's true colors. After finishing the letter, I handed it to the Shen family's most reliable secret guard, ordering him to travel day and night and ensure the letter and silver were safely delivered to Lu Yuan without any mishap. After the secret guard left with his orders, I summoned the manager of the capital city's largest merchant house and instructed make arrangements to have someone inadvertently leak the matter of my donation of silver to General Lu Yuan, turn it into the kind of story that storytellers love, add some dramatic ups and downs to the plot, and have it spread throughout the tea houses and taverns in the capital city. Remember, emphasize that I, Shen Qinghe, understand righteousness deeply and care about the nation, while Xiaoyan is a selfish villain who embezzled military funds for personal desires, disregarding the lives and deaths of the soldiers at the front line. The shopkeeper understood immediately and went down to make arrangements. Within 2 days, storytellers in all the major tea houses of the capital city began to spread this tale. The storytellers spoke with spittle flying, portraying me as a heroine with a chivalrous heart and concern for the world, saying that although I was a woman, I possessed a sense of perspective and responsibility that men couldn't match, willing to sacrifice my own dowry to support the front lines, while Xiaoyan was depicted as a greedy and shameless scoundrel who took the court's military funds to support his mistress, completely disregarding the frontline soldiers who were enduring hunger and fighting bloody battles. The audience below listened with righteous indignation, denouncing Xiaoyan's evil deeds one after another and praising my righteous act. The rumors about me that had been circulating before were instantly drowned out by this wave. This move of pulling the rug out from under him indeed instantly plunged Xiaoyan into a desperate situation. He had embezzled military funds to please Lu Ruyue, buying her mansions and jewelry, filling the holes left by his own extravagant spending. Now, he was convinced that I would help him fill this hole either out of consideration for old time's sake or under pressure from gossip. But not only did I not help him, I instead donated the life-saving money that should have belonged to him to his arch-enemy Lu Yuan, making him a laughingstock among the people of the capital city. The hole in the military funds remained unfilled, and the silver to appease the troops was nowhere to be found. The soldiers at the front lines were already displeased upon learning that their pay had been embezzled, and now hearing about my donation, they complained bitterly about Xiaoyan, and morale completely collapsed. What is even more fatal is that General Liu Yan, upon receiving the 500,000 taels of silver, was overjoyed and immediately used the silver to purchase grain, military supplies, and appease his soldiers. The morale at the northern frontier instantly soared. He promptly wrote a memorial to the court detailing my donation of silver, lavishly praising the Shen family's righteous deed, commending me for my profound sense of righteousness and devotion to the nation. At the same time, he subtly mentioned the current shortage of military provisions at the front lines, hinting that Xiaoyan had been negligent in military management. After the memorial was sent to the capital city, the emperor read it and was greatly pleased. He immediately issued an edict to commend the Shen family, praising me as a woman no less admirable than any man, and bestowed many treasures upon the Shen residents. On one side, my Shen family's righteous deed received praise from the emperor, while on the other, news of Xiaoyan embezzling military funds and the army's morale falling apart spread back to the capital city. By comparison, Xiaoyan's situation became increasingly awkward. In the imperial court, those censors who had long disapproved of Xiaoyan seized the opportunity to submit memorials impeaching him, saying he was incompetent in managing the army, embezzled military funds, lined his own pockets, disregarded the nation's safety, and requesting the emperor to severely punish him. The emperor was already suspicious by nature and had always been wary of officials who controlled military power yet were insatiably greedy. Upon hearing this matter, his trust in Xiaoyan immediately plummeted. Although he didn't issue an immediate decree to punish him, he did summon Xiaoyan to the palace, harshly reprimanded him, and ordered him to fill the gap in military funds within a set deadline and properly pacify the morale at the front lines. When Xiaoyan came out of the palace, his face was deathly pale, his expression haggard, and his usual high spirits had completely vanished. And I, taking advantage of Xiaoyan being utterly overwhelmed and having no time to worry about other things, used the Shen family's substantial financial resources to quietly begin laying out my plans. I had people secretly purchase grain warehouses in the suburbs of the capital city. Most of these warehouses were run by small and medium-sized merchants, usually storing large quantities of grain, and were an important source for the capital city's military supplies. Because the uproar over Xiaoyan's misappropriation of military funds was making such a big splash, many merchants worried about the situation becoming unstable and wanted to sell off their warehouses. I took the opportunity to drive down the prices and acquired them one by one. Besides this, I also sent people to purchase more than half of the medicinal herb shops in the capital city, especially those shops specializing in military medicinal supplies. With constant warfare on the northern frontier, the soldiers inevitably got injured, so the demand for medicinal herbs was enormous. Controlling the supply of medicinal herbs was equivalent to holding another trump card to keep Xiaoyan in check. I did this extremely discreetly, conducting every purchase through hidden channels without leaving any trace linking back to the Shen family. In just one short month, I had quietly gained control of more than half of the capital city's military supply network, making thorough preparations for completely crushing Xiaoyan later on. And Xiaoyan at this time being utterly overwhelmed by the hole in military funds and the impeachments from the court. Had no idea about my secret maneuvers and was still making his final struggles. Under internal troubles and external threats, Xiaoyan ultimately couldn't hold on any longer. The impeachments in court grew more and more frequent. The emperor's dissatisfaction with him became increasingly obvious, and the deadline to fill the military funds deficit was fast approaching. Yet, even after searching through every corner of the Champion Marquis Manor's assets, he had only scraped together a meager tens of thousands of taels of silver, far from enough to fill that 500,000 tael hole. What made him even more desperate was that the soldiers at the front lines, due to the continued delay in military pay, were already showing signs of mutiny. General Liu Yuan was watching like a tiger eyeing its prey from the sidelines, frequently memorializing the court about the difficulties at the front, implicitly pointing to his incompetence. Meanwhile, the common people in the capital city cursed him endlessly. Wherever he went, he could hear people denouncing his misdeeds. The reputation of the Champion Marquis Manor had long since been completely destroyed. Seeing Xiaoyan losing power, Lu Ruye also began to panic. She spent all day crying and wailing in front of Xiaoyan, sometimes complaining about her bitter fate, sometimes urging Xiaoyan to figure something out, and even secretly transferring assets under her name. Afraid that after Xiaoyan fell from power, she would be left with nothing. Xiaoyan was already agitated and irritable, and being nagged by Lu Rue only made his anger boil over even more. On top of being at his wit's end, he vented all his resentment on Lu Rue, feeling that this woman had ruined him after thinking it over and over. He finally steeled his heart and made the most selfish decision to abandon Lu Rue and beg me to come back that morning at dawn. Just as the sky was beginning to lighten, a commotion arose outside the gates of the Shen residence. Wangxing rushed in to report, her tone carrying a hint of disbelief. "Miss, something terrible has happened. The champion Marquis Xiaoyan. He is kneeling at the entrance of our Shen residence." I was combing my long hair at the vanity. Upon hearing this, I paused for a moment, my face showing not the slightest surprise, as if I had long anticipated this day would come. "I see." I said indifferently, "Let him kneel. I'll go over in a bit." I slowly rose to my feet and changed into a plain-colored brocade dress. I wore no makeup, and there was a trace of coldness between my brows and eyes, without any excess emotion. Wangxing followed behind me, softly advising, "Miss, are you really going to see him after the way he treated you? You mustn't soften your heart." I glanced back at Wangxing and smiled faintly. "I'm not going to see him. I'm going to make him thoroughly understand that some mistakes, once made, can never be remedied. Some people, once missed, can never be recovered. I want him to know that I, Shen Qinghe, am not someone he can summon at will or dismiss as he pleases." Walking to the front gate of Shen residence, I ordered someone to open the side door and stood on the high steps, looking down from above at Xiaoyan kneeling on the ground. In just a short month's time, he seemed to have aged several years. His once upright posture had become hunched. His gorgeous brocade robe was all wrinkled. His face was full of haggardness. His eye sockets were sunken, and quite a bit of stubble had grown out. He no longer had the high spirits of the champion Marquis from days past. Beside him was the Marchioness, his mother, that old lady who was once high and mighty and endlessly critical of me. At this moment, she too had lost her former arrogance, her hair disheveled, her face covered in tear stains, looking utterly pitiful. Seeing me come out, Xiaoyan immediately crawled forward on his knees a few steps, raised his head, his eyes full of pleading, and said in a hoarse voice, Qinghe, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Please give me one more chance." Okay, as he spoke, he kowtowed forcefully, his forehead quickly turning bright red, even oozing blood. "I've already kicked that bitch Lu Rue out of the manor. I swear I'll never see her again, never wrong you again. I know I was a bastard before. I shouldn't have forced you, shouldn't have misappropriated your dowry, shouldn't have wronged you. I beg you, for the sake of our marriage, for the sake of the past friendship between the Shen family and my Xiao family, help me out this once. Help me fill the military fund's deficit." Okay, his words were earnest, his voice choked with tears. If it were the old me, I might have softened, might have couldn't help but forgive him. But now, looking at him like this, there wasn't a ripple in my heart, only an icy calm. I recalled how resolute he was back then when he forced me to sign the divorce document and drove me out of the Champion Marquis manor, recalled how he held Lu Rue in his arms, mocking and ridiculing me, saying I was jealously petty, saying I wasn't worthy of being the Marchioness. Recalled those days when I shut myself away at the Shen residence, suffering day and night. Those wounds like brands were carved into the depths of my heart, never to be erased. Xiaoyan, my voice was cold, without a trace of warmth, clearly reaching his ears. What you're begging for isn't me, but the Shen family behind me, the military funds hole that I can fill for you. I bluntly exposed his pretense, not giving him any face. Back when you forced me to sign the divorce document and drove me out of the Marquis manor, did you ever think this day would come? You and Lu Rue were deeply affectionate in front of me, lovey-dovey, enjoying my Shen family's support, squandering my dowry. Now that disaster strikes, you cast her aside like worn-out shoes, throwing her out like trash. Someone like you doesn't even deserve the words heartless. So what right do you have to beg for my forgiveness? My words were like a sharp blade, ruthlessly stabbing into Xiaoyan's heart. His whole body shuddered, his kowtowing motion stopped, and his face instantly turned ashen, his eyes hollow, no longer showing the slightest hint of pleading. Seeing this, the Marchioness immediately rushed over, kneeling at the bottom of the steps, crying and begging. Miss Shen, I'm begging you. Please save our Xiao family, save my son. I know you've been wronged. It is all our fault. It is all because I failed to raise him properly. As long as you're willing to forgive Xiaoyan and help us." I'm willing to marry you again with an 8-bearer sedan chair, grant you the position of the one and only legitimate wife, and from now on all matters in the mansion will be decided by you. I'll never be picky with you again, never make things difficult for you again. Watching the Marchioness crying and wailing dramatically, I only let out a cold sneer. Too late. 2 words, light and airy, yet carrying an unquestionable finality. The prestige of the Champion Marquis Manor is beyond my reach. I, Shen Qinghe, when you kicked me out of the Marquis Manor back then, making me suffer all sorts of humiliation, how come you didn't think about today? Now that you're at your wit's end, only now do you think of begging me. Only now do you remember my worth. Where in this world is there such a good deal? After saying that, I didn't spare them another glance. I turned and walked into the residence, while instructing the butler beside me, shut the main gate tight. From now on, no one from the Xiao family is allowed to step foot in Shen residence. No matter how much they beg outside the door, do not open it, and no one is permitted to acknowledge them. The butler received the order and immediately had people close the gates of Shen residence, completely shutting out the pleading voices of Xiaoyan and the Marchioness. I returned to my own courtyard, stood by the window, and listened to the increasingly faint pleading sounds from outside the gate. There wasn't the slightest bit of satisfaction in my heart, only a sense of calm as if the dust had settled. I knew that my decisiveness would become the final straw that crushes Xiaoyan. Sure enough, before long, the commotion outside Shen Residence's gate disappeared. I suppose Xiaoyan had become completely desperate and left with the Marchioness. The matter of Xiaoyan kneeling before Shen Residence's gate begging for my forgiveness, only to be decisively rejected by me, quickly spread throughout the capital city and became the latest gossip in town. People all said that Xiaoyan got what he deserved, that good and evil will eventually be repaid, and that I, Shen Qinghe, had finally held my head high and lived as my true self. Wanqing brought over a cup of hot tea and handed it to me. Her face full of relief. Miss, you did the right thing. That is exactly how you should treat them. Let them also taste what it is like to be abandoned and ridiculed. I took the hot tea. A trace of warmth coming from my fingertips, I gently took a sip and said slowly, I'm not trying to get revenge for their ridicule. I just want to take back everything that belongs to me and make them pay the price they deserve for what they've done. Xiaoyan's downfall has only just begun. After Xiaoyan knelt at the Shen residence gates and was rejected, he fell into complete despair. After returning, he tried to seek help from other officials, but those people either feared getting dragged into trouble or had long disapproved of his actions. Every single one avoided him like the plague, and no one was willing to lend a helping hand. After Lirue was driven out of the Marquis' manor with nowhere to go, she could only slink back to her parents' home in disgrace. But her family was merely an ordinary, low-ranking bureaucrat household to begin with. The only reason they were willing to let her marry Xiaoyan as a concubine was to climb the social ladder through Xiaoyan's power and influence. Now that Xiaoyan had lost his power and could barely protect himself, how could they still be willing to take in Lirue? This disgrace. As soon as Lirue arrived at her parents' doorstep, she was blocked by her father, who berated her with harsh words for disgracing the family and shut her out, refusing to open the door no matter how much she pleaded. With nowhere left to turn, Xiaoyan could only watch helplessly as the deadline to fill the military salary gap passed day by day. Powerless to do anything, he had considered selling off the Marquis' manor's assets, but many of the manor's possessions had already been squandered by him and Lirue. The remaining real estate couldn't be sold because his reputation was ruined and no one dared to buy. What made him even more desperate was that news of mutinies among the frontline soldiers became more and more frequent. General Lu Yuan repeatedly memorialized the court, requesting the emperor to severely punish Xiaoyan to pacify the troops' morale. In the court, memorials impeaching Xiaoyan piled up like mountains. The emperor's patience was completely exhausted. In a towering rage, he immediately issued an edict dispatching an imperial commissioner to the Champion Marquis' manor to thoroughly investigate Xiaoyan's embezzlement of military funds. The imperial envoy, leading the imperial guards, arrived at the Champion Marquis Manor in grand procession. They sealed off the entire Marquis Manor, prohibiting anyone from entering or leaving. They meticulously searched every corner of the manor and went through all the account books, quickly uncovering evidence of Xiaoyan's embezzlement of military funds and lining his own pockets. The account books clearly recorded that within just 1 year, Xiaoyan had misappropriated 500,000 taels of military funds. Most of it was used to purchase mansions and jewelry to support Lu Rui, while the rest he squandered away completely. In addition to this, the imperial envoy also found many witnesses, servants from the Marquis' manor, and officials responsible for distributing military funds. They had all personally witnessed Xiaoyan's actions in misappropriating military funds and came forward one after another to testify. With both witness and physical evidence present, Xiaoyan had no way to defend himself. Faced with the imperial commissioner's interrogation, he went from initial excuses to later silence, and finally to complete breakdown, collapsing to the ground, crying bitterly in repentance. But it was all too late. The imperial commissioner compiled all the evidence of crimes discovered and memorialized the court overnight. After reading it, the emperor was even more furious and immediately issued an edict. Xiaoyan's title of Champion Marquis was stripped. All assets of the Champion Marquis manor were confiscated. Xiaoyan was to be exiled 3,000 li and forbidden from returning to the capital forever. The Marchioness, having failed to properly raise her son and indulging his embezzlement of military funds, was demoted to commoner status and exiled together with him, Lu Rui having bewitched her master with fox-like charms and corrupted court discipline. Although already expelled from the Marquis manor, was still to receive 30 strokes of the cane and be exiled to a bitter, cold land. On the day of the raid, the entire Champion Marquis manor was filled with wails and howls. Imperial guards shuttled through every courtyard of the Marquis manor, inventorying and hauling away the mansion's possessions. One by one, those once priceless jewels, paintings, and furniture were now carelessly piled together like scrap metal. The servants of the manor were panic-stricken. Some cried and begged for mercy. Some tried to secretly hide away some valuables, but all were caught by the imperial guards, either driven out of the Marquis manor or charged with crimes together. That Marchioness who was once so high and mighty, so endlessly critical of me, went white-haired overnight. Her splendid garments were stripped away and replaced with coarse cloth, her hair disheveled, her eyes vacant. Escorted by the imperial guards, she stood to the side watching the manor she had spent her lifetime building be raided, watching her son be shackled, completely breaking down, crying so hard she couldn't catch her breath. Yet she couldn't utter a single word of protest, reduced to a prisoner that everyone could spit on. When Xiaoyan was shackled with heavy chains by the imperial guards and escorted out of the Marquis' manor, his face was pale as paper, his eyes hollow and lifeless. He wore coarse prison clothes, his hair disheveled and beard unkempt. No longer possessing any trace of his former wayphone, as the Champion Marquis, like a stray dog that had lost its home, he was escorted by the imperial guards, slowly making his way toward the place of exile. Along the route, common folk gathered around, throwing rotten vegetable leaves and stones at him, incessantly cursing his evil deeds. Shouts of corrupt thief and traitorous minister filled the air. Xiaoyan kept his head down, not daring to look at anyone, his face full of regret and despair. But no matter how much he regretted, he could not undo the wrongs he had committed, and no matter how desperate he felt, he could only accept his fate. As for Lu Rui, her fate was even more miserable. After being driven out of the manor by Xiaoyan, she was turned away by her own family. Pregnant and with no one to rely on, she could only wander the streets. It was the middle of winter at the time, exceptionally cold, with howling winds and falling snow. Lu Rui, wearing thin clothing, huddled in a corner on the street, shivering from the cold. The child in her belly would stir from time to time, making her suffer unbearably. She had once been Xiaoyan's treasured darling, living a life where she had only to reach out for clothes and open her mouth for food. But now she had been reduced to a street beggar, going hungry and barely clothed, suffering all the hardships of the world. Some kind-hearted common folk, seeing how pitiful she was, would occasionally give her some food and clothing. But most people, because she was Xiaoyan's mistress, a whore despised by all, kept their distance from her and would even curse at her. Lu Rui spent her days washing her face with tears, regretting that she had coveted wealth and status, that she had seduced Xiaoyan, that she had ruined her own life, but there was no way to undo it all. On a bone-chilling winter night, Lu Rui was curled up in a dilapidated alley when suddenly a sharp pain came from her belly. She knew she was going into labor, but there was no one in the alley, no one who could help her. She could only grit her teeth, endure the intense pain, and give birth alone. In the end, she went into premature labor and hemorrhaged heavily. Beyond Zio, she not only failed to baldrew her own life, but also couldn't baldrew the child in her womb. 2 lives lost with 1 body. She died miserably in that dilapidated alley. It wasn't until the next morning when passers-by went through the alley that her body was discovered. Her body had long grown cold, her face still bearing undried tear stains, her appearance utterly pitiful. The passers-by, seeing how pitiful she was, pooled together some money and hastily buried her at the mass grave outside the city, with no tombstone, no memorial rites, as if she had never existed in this world. When I heard the news of Luruyu's death, I was in my study planning new business ventures. Wanxing came in with the news, her tone carrying a hint of complexity. "Miss, Luruya is dead. 2 lives lost with 1 body, died at the mass grave outside the city." The brush in my hand paused for a moment. I didn't look up, still looking at the account book in my hands, my face showing not the slightest bit of satisfaction, only a kind of calm that comes when the dust settles. I didn't ask for details, nor did I show any emotion, as if what I'd heard was just some trivial matter of no importance. Wanxing looked at my calm demeanor, somewhat puzzled. "Miss, she harmed you so badly back then. Don't you feel satisfied? She finally got the retribution she deserved." I put down the brush in my hand, raised my head, looked at the snowflakes falling outside the window, and said slowly, "So what if I feel satisfied? So what if I don't? She is already dead, and those past injuries won't disappear because of it. I never wanted to put her to death. I just wanted them to pay the price they deserved for what they did. Evil begets evil, the way of heaven cycles. Xiaoyan, Marchioness, Luruya, they all ultimately paid the price of their lives for their greed, selfishness, and malice." After the Champion Marquis Manor fell, the situation in the capital city gradually stabilized General Luyan. For his strict military discipline and merit in stabilizing the troops' morale, was heavily relied upon by the emperor and became the supreme commander of the northern border front, guarding Dajing's frontier. The Shen family, because of my righteous deed, received the emperor's commendation. Their reputation grew higher and higher, and their business became more and more prosperous. I used the resources in my hands to open up new trade routes, not only taking the Shen family's strength to the next level, but also helping many people in need. I stood in front of the study window looking at the snowy scene outside, my heart clear and tranquil. Those past pains and hatreds had long since faded away with the passage of time. I was no longer that Shen Xinghe who was blinded by love and bullied by others. I was the legitimate daughter of the Shen family, the one who held my own destiny in my hands. From now on, I would no longer live for anyone else, only for myself, only for the Shen family, living well and living out my own brilliance. As for those evildoers, they had already received their deserved retribution, and I would begin my own brand new life. Having dealt with the Xiao family, I devoted all my energy to the family business. I used modern business thinking to reform the Shen family's management model, opened banks, developed overseas trade, and monopolized the export of silk tea and porcelain. Under my leadership, the Shen family's wealth accumulated at an astonishing rate, even surpassing the national treasury. I was no longer that secluded lady who needed to depend on men, but a business queen who held the empire's economic lifeline in her hands. My abilities caught the attention of the imperial court, especially the 7th prince, who was the least favored yet most visionary among the current dynasty. He contacted me multiple times to discuss national affairs and people's livelihood, greatly appreciating my business talent and political foresight. We became the most compatible partners. I supported him with financial resources, helping him recruit talent and implement new policies, while he provided political protection for my business empire. I was no longer confined to the inner quarters, but participated in building this nation in my own way. I established girls' schools, provided disaster relief, built irrigation systems. My reputation became even more prominent than any prince or nobleman in the capital city. Years later, with my strong support, the 7th prince successfully ascended to the throne and became a wise and enlightened ruler. The first thing he did after taking the throne was to personally come to the Shen residence to propose to me. This time, there was no coercion, no scheming. He stood before me, his eyes sincere and passionate. Pingqi, what I'm offering you is not the position of empress, but a partner who can stand shoulder to shoulder with me, viewing the vast rivers and mountains together. I'm willing to offer this kingdom as my betrothal gift, promising you one lifetime, one heart. One person, are you willing? I looked at him, thinking back to that wretched version of myself from years ago. Now, I held wealth that rivaled nations and possessed unmatched influence. I no longer needed anyone's protection. But I still smiled. I personally placed the phoenix crown on my own head and put on wedding attire 100 times more magnificent than before. This time, I wasn't marrying a man, but marrying an equal love, a companion whose soul resonated with mine. On the wedding day, red wedding decorations stretched for miles, and all the people came out to watch. Hand in hand, he and I walked to the highest point of the Golden Luan Hall, overlooking the prosperous nation below. I knew this was just another beginning at the peak of my life. That Shen Qinghe, who was once betrayed, had already died. The one standing here now was Shen Qinghe, reborn from the ashes, wielding power over heaven and earth. Equal wife was a special existence in ancient Chinese marriage system. Under the strict system of legitimate and secondary status, the primary wife, legitimate wife, held the highest position, while concubines had low status with a strict hierarchical distinction between them that could not be crossed. Equal wife, as the name suggests, refers to a second or parallel wife whose status is equivalent to the primary wife, on equal footing. However, in the actual ritual and legal system, equal wife was never officially recognized by the authorities. The laws of most dynasties clearly stipulated a monogamous system, meaning a man could only have one primary wife. The so-called equal wife at the legal level was essentially still a concubine. Only that in folk practice or under certain special circumstances, such as merchants conducting business away from home for long periods and marrying again in a different place, her title was privately elevated by the parties involved, using the name equal wife to indirectly enhance her treatment and status. Yet she could never obtain truly equal recognition with the primary wife in terms of clan law and ritual system. Sons born to the primary wife were legitimate sons who enjoyed inheritance rights. Sons born to an equal wife in the strict sense were still of secondary birth, and their status could not be compared with legitimate sons.